So today we're going to be talking about sex. But in all seriousness, we're going to be discussing casual sex, which unfortunately society has normalized. And I feel like it has more cons than it has pros. For clarity, when I say casual sex, I'm talking about sex that is happening outside of a committed relationship. That can be a friend with benefits. It could be a situationship. You don't know where it's going. So this is just going to be a real transparent conversation, kind of a conversation that I wish someone would have sat down and had with me before I actually began having sex, or even just earlier in my journey as a woman, to really just give game on what can happen if you're not intentional about the way that you're moving, if you're just following what the media tells you about, not thinking about repercussions of things, not worrying about being in a relationship one day or anything in the future, really just living in the moment, doing what you want. That narrative, that agenda that we're pushing is really counterproductive, because as we know in life, there's no such thing as having no repercussions, right? And you might not feel it when you're 18, 19, 20, early 20s, whatever age years old, but later on, you're gonna feel it. And that's what I really want to dive into. This video was inspired by a clip that I came across on Instagram. Oh my God. Is that a butterfly or a bug? Well, they out here. We're in nature. It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. This conversation was inspired by a clip that I came across on Instagram.
I'm noticing that more and more women are choosing abstinence and celibacy. And at this point, I definitely understand why. Like, between the situationships, the men not wanting to commit, the men not wanting to be honest, the down low men, and these married single men, I get it. And I feel like I have really truly made the decision to work on myself and to be by myself while I'm in this transition period. Like, I feel like I'm in a weird transition period, but I've accepted it. And I feel like now is the time for me to really just focus on myself and not think about dating. I feel like I have goals and I have things that I want to do first before I actually date, because I really do want to date with a purpose.
I feel where she is coming from. A lot of women feel where she's coming from. I have been there. The realization that you have entertained several toxic relationships, situations, and you want to do better. And the best way to go about that is to take a break, detox from those attachments, and we remove ourselves from dating, and furthermore, we remove ourselves from sex. And that's our way of really getting to know ourselves, finding our purpose, and creating healthier relationships with people. Totally get that. Again, I've been there. You may remember that on my channel, I posted a few videos talking about my own abstinence journey after I had a failed relationship, and really just reflecting on past situations and the treatment that I was enduring, and just trying to force people to reciprocate energy that was never going to be reciprocated. I just realized that I had to do better. So I love that women are really taking the initiative, especially more so than past generations, where a lot of the existence of women was centered around a man because we needed to have our lives revolve around a man in order to survive. So I totally get that, and I love that part of the abstinence, celibacy journeys that we're witnessing. Now, on the flip side, I have been seeing some people throw shade. I know a lot of men throw shade specifically, saying,
oh, once women become ran through, or once they hit 30, now all of a sudden you want to seek Jesus and you want to be abstinent and you want to be a good woman. Why didn't you do all of this when you were in your prime, when you were in your 20s?
And I get that too, right? I hope I don't catch slack from women about this, but I understand that perspective and the frustration that comes along with it. If there were men who genuinely wanted to pursue a healthy relationship, they had good intentions, and women were just like, nah, I'm in my hot girl summer period, I'm not ready to settle down. Coming and spinning the block about 10 years later, when you've had a whole bunch of traumatic experiences and now you might be a little bit more jaded or have guards or trust issues or whatever the case may be, it's more work. It's more work than needed to happen if we were just intentional the first time around. It is very similar to the frustration that women feel when we like a guy and he's in that period of, I'm just gonna smash women, I don't wanna settle down. And we're like, dang, I wanna be with this guy, but he doesn't wanna settle down with me because he's in his period. So we get frustrated by that too. We feel it, but I don't think that we quite make the connection that we're moving in a similar way as the men that we complain about are moving, okay? So I'll say that as a disclaimer before we enter the conversation. But here is what I take issue with. Women are going through these negative experiences in their teens, early 20s, however old they are, and then they come to this realization. They have a coming to Jesus moment that, wow, I've been making a lot of messed up decisions and it's not working in my favor. I need to turn my life around, right? So you know that the whole casual dating, dating multiple people, unintentional dating, I just want sex, I'm just gonna smash, it's not beneficial in the long run. You know that, right? You do. And if you're still denying that fact, then I encourage you to reflect a little bit more on your journey. But in the long run, I think we can agree that increased sexual partners comes with the possibility of STDs. You might have unwanted pregnancies if you're not being safe. You have attachments to people, whether that be energetically, emotionally, if your ego is attached to the fact that you feel like you have ownership over them. There's more cons than pros, right? Knowing that living a long period of this liberation, right? This sexual liberation, promiscuity, casual, free lifestyle dynamic has negative consequences. Why are we not more transparent about that? If we know that living a life of casual sex has negative consequences, something that we regret later on in life to the point where we feel like we need to completely detach from dating, relationships, sex, just to get ourselves back on track, to get our mental and our spirit right, why are we still promoting on social media or even promoting to younger women in our families or our social circles that they need to have this period of being wild and free, right? Don't settle down so quick. Date around, have your fun, worry about it later. Why are we still encouraging people to do that, knowing that that might not be good for them in the long term? And to be very clear, before y'all start coming on here saying I'm a pick-me or whatever the case may be, I'm not saying that you need to focus so much on marriage and kids as soon as you're 18 that you're not doing things like traveling the world, getting to know yourself. The frustration that I have as a millennial, and also a lot of other women in my age bracket have, is that the women that came before us, they didn't really provide a lot of guidance in terms of how to be a woman, what situations to avoid, how to navigate sex in a right way, how to have healthy relationships. And a lot of them may have not been able to do that because they never got to experience that for themselves, or they never had the opportunity or put in the effort to heal themselves to teach their kids, the younger generations, better. Okay, cool, I get it. It's something that we have to accept, move forward, break the cycle. But now we know better. And we should ideally be helping younger generations be better than who we are. We should want to have a society where we are consistently promoting growth so that the people who come after us are growing, we're constantly evolving, right? But then we get in our friend groups, we get on social media and we're like,
girl, live your best life. You could have someone take you out on a date and then have him drop you off to your dick appointment.
we say these things and we encourage this behavior in other women, and I don't think we stop to think about how warped that is. I don't want to throw shade on anybody, but I'm gonna give you an example of what I mean. I was having a conversation with someone once, and she is very much the hot girl summer archetype. When you think about the woman who has a very curvy physique, twerking on social media, turning up every weekend, maybe throughout the week, very sexually liberated, vocal about the sexual experiences that she has, that was her. I sat down and had a conversation with her one day, and she expressed that even though she has sex frequently and she's had multiple sexual partners, she doesn't really enjoy sex like that. It's something that she does to feel a sense of connection with the men that she's with, or to please them and make them happy. And when you think about it, it's sad, but I can also relate to that level, not in the sense that I don't enjoy having sex, right? But I can relate to the sense that sex for me, in some of my past relationships, or situationships were used as a tool to feel connection to someone who I could tell either consciously or subconsciously wasn't seeking that same level of affection or that same level of connection at that time. This is why I'm so passionate about being vocal about why I think casual sex does more harm than good. A lot of people, and I'm gonna say women specifically in this case, casual sex with a whole bunch of different people or having a whole bunch of sexual partners, for a lot of women is usually linked to something deeper. There might be some sort of void that they are trying to fill. That might be their way of, again, feeling close to someone because they realize that their choice in men are not reciprocating. They might feel like there's something within them as a person where that's the best that they can get. They're not worthy of having a committed connection with someone. It's just so much deeper than, oh, I'm just gonna live my life, I'm liberated, I'm free. And I think later on down the line, we realize that. I wish that we were more intentional with coaching our youth to say, okay, if you are in a space in your life where you feel you're not ready to settle down and be with someone, that is totally fine. But use that time to really get to know yourself. Get to know who you are as a person, what your desires are, what your strengths are, what you might still need to work on. That way, when you're in that phase of figuring yourself out, you're not connecting yourself to unhealthy situations or having unhealthy behaviors as a distraction from the issues that you have within. We've normalized the idea of dissuading women from relationships too soon. No, don't settle down too quick. You're too young to get married. You're too young to have kids. Okay, cool. But why are we not saying the same thing about casual sex? Figure your life out, but maybe keep your legs closed. And I know that people are gonna say, I want pleasure too. Cool, but you have to figure out if those temporary moments of pleasure are worth bad situations that can happen immediately, or a gradual buildup of trauma and regret that you're gonna end up having to face later on. To be very clear of my viewpoints on sex, I think that sex is a very spiritual interaction, whether people realize it or not. You might not have emotions for that person, but the things that you're feeling internally when you lay down with someone, there's a chance that those type of feelings, that energy can be transferred. Why do you think that a lot of people feel like they need to have sex as soon as they're stressed? Or if they're depressed, it's instantly like, oh, let me call someone and get my rocks off, and then you feel better. Where does that energy go? Where did those feelings go? That's why sometimes if you have sex with the wrong person, afterwards your mood is like, you feel a little bit off, like you might feel depressed, you might feel regret, you just might feel out of balance. Your pH balance might be off, right? Because that is your body, your spirit telling you that that's someone who you shouldn't have been with. Even if your emotions aren't involved in the sexual encounters that you have, think about how our ego gets involved when we have sex with someone. Ladies, y'all probably gonna relate to this more than the men will, but men, I know some of y'all will too. You ever had a situation where you might have talked to someone and it probably wasn't even a real relationship. It might have just been something casual. Later on down the line, if you find out that an associate or a friend of yours is involved with that person, or if they come to you asking if they can be involved with that person, you feel some kind of way. You don't even deal with that person anymore. You probably decided that that person wasn't the right fit for you. But we feel a way in situations like that because there's still a tie, there's a connection with that person who we were sexually involved with. In my head, no, you can't, because this is someone who I have a tie to, right? So just think about that. You feel like that person still belongs to you in some kind of way because it's a tie, it's a sexual tie. I already know that some of the opposition that I'll get to this video is that sex isn't that deep. And if you feel like it's not, then that's on you, right? Your beliefs are your beliefs and mine are mine. But I do think that it's really twisted that we live in a society where people see something like cooking a meal for someone as something that they absolutely will not do. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing wife duties for someone who I'm not in a relationship with. But in the same vein, we'll go ahead and sleep with that person. So you're telling me that the act of kindness, making a meal for someone, weighs heavier than you laying down with someone, being in a very intimate space that person is inside of you. that doesn't weigh heavier. There are people out here who won't even kiss some of the people they have sex with because they feel like sex is a lot more surface level than kissing someone. Like, are you kidding me? Is this where we have come to as a society? We don't value our bodies, clearly. And as a result of us not valuing our bodies, that then translates into how we value other people's bodies. If I feel like that about myself, I'm definitely not gonna value you or that act that I have with you. Why would I? And the next thing you know, we encounter bad situations that trigger us. And now we have a warped or distorted view of the people who we have sex with. And then now that impacts the way that we treat people in the future. And everybody is just going around triggering people several times. No matter what corner you go to, people are being triggered, all because we're having these sporadic encounters instead of being intentional about who we are choosing to share that piece of ourselves with. And I want to emphasize that this video was not coming from a place of judgment, because I am by far Mother Teresa, okay? I am not judging anybody's journey because mine is not spick and span, but I am also willing to be transparent about that. And I think that we as women need to do a better job with sharing that wisdom with others so that we can break these cycles. And again, I think celibacy, abstinence, periods of that, even if you're in a relationship, can be dope. You know, there's benefits to it. But I feel like if we learn from our mistakes and learn from the mistakes of others a lot quicker, then it wouldn't have to get to the point where we're traumatized, we don't trust anybody, relationships are all hard, everybody sucks, and then we have to go through that phase of clearing out all of that gunk. So yeah, those are my thoughts. In summary, casual sex is overrated. And if it was as great as society paints it out to be, then people wouldn't have to take breaks from it, period.